Okay, we are live. Let's wait a few seconds.
How are you, Gerard?
So, shall we get started, Jerome?
Yes.
You go? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jérôme Girard, and I am the founder of InnoIT Consulting. We are very pleased to have you today. First of all, we hope you and your families are safe. And I want to thank our partner, Actia Solution, and his CEO, Gerard Chiva. It's a pleasure to collaborate with him. I'm going to present you InnoIT Consulting in less than 1 minute before the speech. InnoIT Consulting, we are a disruptive IT consulting company. We launched activities 10 years ago in France. Now we are more than 260 people in France and Spain. In Spain, we are almost 50 people. We created the company 3 years ago in Spain. And we work in IT, in web and mobile development, and in infrastructure and DevOps, in QA testing and test automation. We work also in data, both data engineering and data scientist. And we work in methodology. We can offer to our clients staffing and time and material services, managed services, turnkey solution. We also offer audit and assessment, and we can provide recruiting services. We try to motivate our consultants with a career path, with a training program, with an assessment from a manager, and also offering the best salary package and benefits. We are proud that our team and our consultant let us quote and comments in social media. And you can follow us in LinkedIn, in our corporate LinkedIn page, in Meetup, both in our page, in our community, Meetup community in Barcelona and in Madrid, and also in our website. There you can see our job opportunity and project opportunities. Here you can see our client in Spain. Today we will have a 1-hour presentation from Gerard. And at the end of the speech, you will be able to ask every question you might have to Gerard. So now I hand over to you, Gerard.
Thank you, Jerome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Gerard Chiva. I'm the Managing Director of Actia Solutions, which is a management consulting firm. We work with digital businesses to enable growth and market leadership with our consulting, coaching, and training programs in innovation, digital product management, and lean organization. And we also accompany leadership teams in the process of becoming a modern digital product organization. This said, let's get started with the webinar today. So, what do we have today in the menu? Well, this webinar is the second of a series of 3 webinars that we are running on the topic of distributed organizations from different perspectives. In this one, we bring you our own experience working remote or distributed or in distributed teams and organizations since 2005. 2005 remote work was kind of a magic voodoo thing that only a few people were doing. So I was doing already remote work by that time. So I know something about it. I'm not an expert, but hopefully you can take some tips and tricks today that you can implement right away tomorrow or the next few weeks. So probably some of you have seen this tweet recently. A lot of companies are going to be suffering from this pandemic, but there are so many that could have done much more and much better before. But just a few really understood that what digitalization was about. Just a few understood that times have changed and that we cannot spend 2 hours a day commuting to go to the office, where then we will be having meetings with people in other locations and countries. Few companies really cared about the environmental impact that traveling is causing. A lot of people didn't believe in distribution and remote work, but now they will have to live with it or die. There is no going back. I think this is the new normal for good. And in this group of people, I also include among this group a lot of Agile experts and Agile coaches and coaches of all sorts who suddenly became specialists in remote work and distributed teams when they had always bashed about remote coaching and distributed teams, always talking about the benefits of co-location. And we will see later today, high performance in teams or high performance in organizations has nothing to do with distribution. We need to take into account certain things, but distribution is not against performance. You can have high performing teams in a distributed setup. Now you will see that everybody, all of a sudden, is an expert in distributed work. What we bring here today is our experience of over 15 years of remote work and working in distributed environments. I really hope that you can take some good advice and that you can start putting that into practice tomorrow. There are a lot of successful companies who have been working on a distributed approach, from fully distributed approach with no offices at all, like Zapier, Automatic, or InVision, to distribution by geographic locations and remote work from home, which is almost the norm nowadays in services business. Thanks to globalization and technology evolution, many companies are distributed by nature. However, very few accept the fact and still force people to go to the office when most of their interactions on a daily basis are going to be with someone else who is not sitting in the same office. This pandemic is accelerating something that was going to happen anyways. I think we are just entering the era of distributed company. Millions of people have been urged to work from home without proper preparation with regards to tools, techniques, practices, and technology. Not to talk about mindset of their managers or executives who never believed in remote work, and now it's their only chance of survival. You will see tens, if not thousands, of webinars, trainings, and white papers about how to be a great leader when your company goes remote. If you were a great leader before going remote, you will be a great leader now. You don't have to worry about that. And if you weren't, chances are you will not be. Because essentially, leadership, as for the same goes for teams, leadership doesn't change with distribution. I'm not selling you some magic snake oil to become a great leader in distributed times. 2 of my best managers I ever had were not even in my same time zone. And still they were great leaders because they were there to help us whenever we needed them. They cared about people. They built positive relationships with people. They did their best to provide the best tools and working environment for everyone. They allowed us to work from home whenever needed, and they ensured clear and compelling direction and goals, so everybody was aligned and rowing into the same direction without need of micromanagement. As you can see, leadership has nothing to do with distribution. It's basically the same, right? Then you need to take into account certain things with the tools and technology, but but the leadership is something that's not going to change. It's important because it's very difficult. If you didn't believe in remote work and distribution 2 months ago, it's very unlikely that you're going to be a great leader right away. You can do some work, right? But it's not immediate. I have the experience of being working with remote teams or with distributed teams since 2005, as I was saying. And as I wouldn't classify myself as an expert, and I never published anything on the topic, what I will bring you today is my experience, and hopefully you can learn something valuable. You will see here today is the result of many years of experimentation and practice. This is what works for me, and hopefully some of these will work for you too, right? It's not a silver bullet or a snake oil that's gonna solve your life, but I mean it's my own experience and my practice. Because what happens is that since maybe 2 months ago, the distribution was the exception, but now is a matter of survival, and we need to do something about it. The thing is that you will see, probably you have already experienced it. Remote makes these functions more visible. So if you were underperforming, you will underperform remotely, and probably much more. If you were a micromanager, you will have a lot of difficulties with your distributed teams. And if your meetings were ineffective and were a waste of time, with distribution, it will be much more evident and much more ineffective. So we need to do something about it, and I think we can do something about it. So what will we do about it? So the webinar today is about these three, I would say, the building blocks of the distributed company. First, we will talk a little bit about home office. How do we make sure that we are performing when working from home? I mean, it's not plug and play, forget that. So it's not telling people, hey guys, go, here is your laptop, go and work from home. No, that doesn't work like that. So we need to be very proactive and in doing lots of things that we didn't do before or that we are not used to do. And that's some of the tips that I bring here today. The second building block is the distributed teams, right? As I was saying, high performing doesn't have anything to do with distribution. But we need to be very specific in some things. We don't need to forget some practices and some principles in order to make sure that teams are performing. And the last part is, how do you, as a leader, manage to lead this transition to remote, right? So these are the three building blocks. And let's say an assumption that I'm having when I'm assuming when saying all this is that although everything that I will say today will work and will help you in this situation that we're now, and that will also help you when working in an office, I'm assuming that when you apply this, we are not under confinement and we don't have our kids at home, because it's not fair to assume that people under confinement and with the kids at home are going to be performing as they were before. That's not fair. Okay, that's not going to happen. Under confinement, we are not performing. Forget that, right? Just try to help your people. Try to understand that they have issues. They have personal issues. They have motivation is low. There are a lot of worries in our heads. So please don't assume that performing is going to be great in confinement or with our kids at home, right? So home office. Let's talk about home office. So many people regard home office as this. Yes, they are working from home. And that's true. I can understand that because by default, working from home, if you don't do anything about it, it can mean that you are underperforming. And that's normal. So when working from home, it's really easy to fall into distractions and reduce productivity, right? We want it or not, our unconscious mind, our brain knows that we are at home. So we have to trick it. And we will see some ways in which we can trick our brain into performing, okay? Because something also very important, it is not the same working from home once in a while, so 1 day per week or 1 day per month or whenever you need it, than working from home every day, every week of the year. That's not the same. So if we are assuming that we can send people working from home and they're going to be spending there 5 days a week performing great, no, that's not going to happen. We need to do something about it, right? Otherwise, productivity and creativity are going to be suffering a lot. Then also there is some people who believe that working from home is day off, okay? Both employees and managers and executives think, yeah, working from home, yes, I'm going to do some stuff. I'm going to be sipping a mojito while doing some stuff. That's not like that, right? So let's see what we can do to change our minds. I'm saying it from the humbleness of being doing it for many years. I mean, as I said, I'm not an expert, but I have some experience and some tricks that I've been polishing over the years, right? So if we want to perform as an individual when working from home, there are 3 pillars or 3 important things that I think we need to take into account. First, we need to understand how our brain works, okay? And then, as you may have seen in many webinars and many recommendations, a basic set of tools and then techniques that we need to apply. But first of all, we need to understand our brain, because our brain, in this case, is not our friend unless we do something about it. And it's going to trick us into underperforming, right? So let's see what we can do to trick our brain into high performance. Okay, so our brain maybe is probably one of the most powerful machines in the world, but it can become our enemy, as I was saying, in given circumstances. And working from home is one of those circumstances. We need to understand how our brain works to make the best of it. We will need to use some tricks. As I was saying, I repeat, but it's important. It's not the same working from home once in a while that every day, every week of the year, okay? First thing, you have the 7 things that I will mention at the end of these slides. Just pay attention, because maybe you have heard these suggestions, but I repeat them. So I explain it to you because they work for me and they are quite practical. First of all, probably the basic one, but still very important. And some people don't believe that this is true or this may work, but we need to put our brain in working mode. So when working from home, do not fall into the trap of working with your pajamas. That doesn't work. We need to trick our brain into thinking that we are in the office, right? So you must simulate going to the office. How do we do that? Okay, you wake up and you do your usual stuff. You take a shower, you get dressed, you take breakfast, and perhaps you go for a 5-10 minute walk outside before starting to work. Okay, that's how we trick our brain into putting ourselves in working mode. So working with your pajamas on doesn't help. Then we try to do something different every day. This is because how our brain works and how novelty generates dopamine in the brain that helps in focus and performance. So try to do something different every day. It's easier. Our brain hates monotony, and just bring something different every day. A different breakfast, a different newspaper, different music. One day go for a walk, another day do some stretching. Try to introduce, even if you have your own routine, try to introduce something new at the beginning of the day. That will put your brain in this novelty mode that produces dopamine and helps into performing. Then the office space. So you must have a place to work. Even if it's at your home, do whatever you can to create your office desk at home, okay? I don't recommend working from the kitchen, on the living room, or even lying on your bed. That doesn't work. So find your spot and make it your office, okay? And minimize distractions. When nobody is looking, it's much easier to fall into distraction. So put your phone away, put everything into silence, try to work with maximized windows, so reduce sounds. We will see how now. So really try to reduce distractions, because in working at home, it really impacts performance. I would say that even much more than in the office. And what happens with our brain? Well, first of all, a strong recommendation from, this is a book, actually I have it here. So I tell you that I'm not lying to you. I just Googled something, that this book, you can see stuff here. I wrote it maybe in 2013 and 2014, and this book changed my mind. And some of the tricks that I'm implementing since then, hopefully I have this book much more years before, but I really recommend it if you want to improve your performance at work, either in the office or at home. Really, this book is awesome, really. Okay, so one thing that I recommend also after many years of practice and confirmed by reading this book afterwards is that you should organize your day based on brain usage. The first thing is planning your day. So do never start your day by reading the email. Forget that. Forget email, right? Email is a drain of energy. So and in the book, they explain why. So first, plan your day. First thing you need to do before starting to work is prioritize your tasks for the day, right? So you must create a schedule and organize your tasks for all the day. The prefrontal cortex that we see here is the part of the brain that we use for difficult tasks and requires focus and concentration and consumes a lot of energy and gets tired quickly. So schedule your most challenging tasks early in the day if possible. Leave repetitive tasks, administrative tasks, meetings, and reading the email for afterwards. Then time boxing. Time boxing is a very useful tool to keep performing. Do a time box of 40 minutes, then go for a walk, or I don't know, or empty the dishwasher, or do a coffee, whatever, and then go back. Try to do something physical. If your work is mental, let's say, try to break that pattern. Do something physical and then go back to your brain work, right? That helps a lot. And something that is really simple and really stupid, but it was really well, is getting things out of your head. So if you have those things that are nagging you, I need to call this person, I need to send this email, I have this problem, whatever, write those things down in a paper or in Post-its and leave them aside. That download that information from your brain so your brain can be focused on what is more important to you. I'm most of you may be thinking that sounds so stupid, but it really works. I mean, I'm telling you, this is practice for many years. I'm not inventing things here. So try to do that, right? So these are the 7 recommendations. You can always, these are the basic stuff, right? So you can always go into these trainings for high performing or for, I don't know, getting things done or anything like that. I mean, fair enough. Right? This is the basic stuff. If you do these things, your performance at home will be great, right? And then tools. I'm not going to spend too much time on the tools, but at least I will show you what are the tools that I use for many years, actually. You know some of them, and if not, I'm going to just go ahead. But first of all, the chair. So we cannot assume that everybody has got a nice chair at home, but if you want to be sitting for 8 hours a day, you need a cool chair. And a cool chair, it's 300 euros upwards, right? So when we send people at home with their laptop, are we assuming that they're going to have a nice chair? Are we going to pay for the chair? What's going to happen there? Then a whiteboard. Probably you do not see but you can see my whiteboard here. Okay. You need a whiteboard. I mean, it's fundamental visual thinking, walking while drawing and standing up. This is great thing for performance. Also, if obviously you're going to be working with a distributed team, then you need a virtual whiteboard, which the tool I use and I recommend, it's Miro. And in the past, it was called Real Time Board. And also, if you don't believe me, I will show. I use a tablet because drawing sometimes with the trackpad or the mouse is complicated. So I use this tablet from Wacom. Wacom does really great tablets for drawing. Then Slack, you need to be able to perform asynchronous communication with your team. And hey guys, let's talk about this or whatever. Slack is a great tool. There are others. And also you need to organize your work individually and as a team. So use a tool to organize your work. Those of you who are coming from the software industry and product management, product development industry, you will have your tools, but maybe some people in the webinar doesn't. So use a tool. I mean, you can use Trello, which I don't especially recommend for simple things, yes. But if you want to have a more complicated environment, I would recommend something like Kanban-Ice, which is the tool that I use with my clients and with me, and for me, and try to use one of those tools to organize the work. Then Zoom, regardless of what is going on nowadays, Zoom is a great tool, especially for workshops, because have some great functionalities for delivering trainings and workshops online. We use both Zoom and Google Meet, depending on the usage. And then noise cancellation headsets. If they don't have noise cancellation, fair enough, but I strongly recommend noise cancellation. These are actually the ones on the picture. It's fundamental to avoid interruptions and distractions. Spotify, well, I cannot say that this is a tool, but I mean, some people like working with music. I don't especially like working with music. I just put the noise cancellation on, but when I want to listen to music because I'm doing a boring and repetitive task, then I put Spotify on, and obviously premium Spotify, because I don't want to be distracted by the advertisement. And last but not least, cable connection. If you're going to be having video conferences all day and using tools such as Miro and Zoom, I would really recommend cable connection rather than wireless, right? If you have wireless, at least make sure that it has a very good connectivity. And the tool that you shouldn't use actually is email. So try to avoid and restrict email usage as much as possible, only for one-way communications or broadcasting. Everything else should happen by Slack, by short video calls with Google Meet or Zoom or whatever. So avoid email. Email is not a tool for communicating with your team, right? And then one of the techniques that I've been using for many years actually is the Pomodoro technique. You can. Why you cannot see? Let me check something. I think you're not seeing the. It's cut. Why is it cut? I don't know. Well, there is the reference below. So this is a technique copyrighted by Francesco Cirillo. Actually, he didn't invent anything, because the Pomodoro technique, here you can see the Pomodoro. I don't use it anymore because it's something that I integrated already. But it's basically using how our brain works and trying to perform the time boxes that I was saying before. So our brain works in kind of three different areas. What is called under arousal, which is I'm bored. So when you are bored, you don't perform. Or when you are excited or you have a lot of stress, which is called over arousal, then you don't perform either. So now what happens, for instance, when we are in confinement, if that we want it or not, we are stressed, but negatively stressed. So it's very difficult to perform. However, we are trying to bring you some tools where you can actually move to this performing zone, which is called flow zone, which is it has to do with the activation of several neurotransmitters on the brain, like dopamine, noradrenaline, or cortisol, which helps us moving between these zones. And the Pomodoro technique really helps a lot, right? So as I was saying, schedule. If you have a long task, break it into chunks, put your timer, do 40 minutes, go for a walk, do 4 more minutes, then, I don't know, do whatever physical thing you want to do, and then go back. That's how we go to performing, to non-performing, to performing, to non-performing. And this is really very good explained in the book I was saying before. So, high performing in distributed teams. As we said, distributed teams can be as good as co-located ones. So there are so many companies who are fully remote for years, and they are pretty remarkable. I was saying before, and much more, right? And many more, sorry. So the basics of team performance is still the same. So having a compelling purpose, working agreements, challenging tasks, clear roles, boundaries, a supportive environment, organizational support. All these things allow you to be a high-performing team. And nobody ever said that co-location was one of them. Just basic stuff. Maybe some of you don't have this background about teams, but just to make sure we understand what we mean by a team. And here we have one of the classical definitions, which is a small group of people with complementary skills, committed to a common goal, a set of performance goals, and a shared approach by which they feel reciprocally accountable. I don't see there the word collocated, right? Can you see the word collocated there? No. So nobody ever said that teams need to be sitting together. Well, yeah, somebody said that. All these agile gurus and agile coaches over there that have been nagging everybody about collocation. Now what happens? Now what happens with collocation? Now all of a sudden agile is dead? No. There are many very, very good teams and companies who have been working in a distributed approach for ages. And just for you also, you cannot see the bottom of the slide. I don't know why, but there is the reference, right, for this, because I think it's fundamental. This is one of the fundamentals books of leading teams, which is called, actually it's called Leading Teams by Richard Hackman. And I don't understand why you cannot see the lower part of the slides. I don't know. So this is the basic. So how do you know if a team is performing? There are 3 dimensions. Obviously, they are producing an outcome. Second, they are growing as a team. They are improving as a team. And third is the individual perspective. So as an individual, being part of a team means that you are better after being part of the team than you were before, so that you learn something in the team. That's what high-performing teams mean, okay? And again, nothing about collocation, okay? There are 7 conditions that you can really go deeper if you read this book by Richard Hackman. But I'm putting this here because these are the basic conditions for team performance of all the times of many years that we team coaches and we know for many time. And I want to emphasize here psychological safety and working agreements that we will see later. But for those of you who are not into this world, the 7 conditions are like, imagine that you're going to plant a seed. What you're not going to do is put this seed somewhere random and just wait until the plant grows. You will select a good recipient. You will put the right soil and nutrients and the right amount of sunlight, and you will put the seed in the right depth, and then you will water it, and then you will all those things that you need to make sure that the seed grows in a healthy plant. The same goes with teams. These are the 7 conditions, right? But what I want to emphasize for distribution are 2 of those conditions, because they are really important and they make a real difference. And we will see now. So for distributed teams, the basics of team performance are still the same, as we were saying, right? Goals, a compelling purpose, boundaries, working agreements, clear roles, and so on. But here are also 7 recommendations. This is basic stuff that I think everybody can have. It's not much work, but please do it. If you're going distributed, please do this, because this will help a lot. First of all, mandatory. I really don't care here about what you think. It's use video. Use video is fundamental because we need to trick our brain into believing that we are actually meeting the other person in person, let's say, right? And using video is fundamental. So don't let your teammates go black. We need to use video for every video interaction. Then something really cool that sometimes is forced and is artificial, but please try to make it more natural, is having the virtual coffee room or the canteen. So this is very easy. So you have a room, for instance, in Zoom, which is open all day. And whenever you want to have a coffee, you say to your colleagues, hey, I'm going to have a coffee. You go to your kitchen, you make a coffee, and then you go to this virtual room. And there you have your coffee with your friends or with your colleagues as if you were in the canteen or in the coffee room of your company, right? It's the same. But it's the time to chit-chat, to talk about family, to talk about friends, to talk about sports, whatever, how is going the day, what about the new project that you had, all these fundamental things that make actual, in the end, a good team. You need to kind of force it, but don't make it artificial. Sometimes I've seen, and actually I've been part of that, making it kind of artificial, like, hey guys, at 5 p.m. every day we do the virtual coffee. That usually doesn't work. It's better to have this virtual room always open, and whoever wants to go there just goes there as if you were in the office. Then, especially fundamental, having a facilitator and a secretary for meetings is something that we strongly recommend to our clients, and we do when collocated, but it's much more important when going distributed. Please, every meeting, you should have a facilitator and a secretary. Secretary takes notes of the most important things, actions, outcomes, what happened, what didn't happen, whatever. And facilitator just makes sure that the outcome of the meeting is achieved, right? So these two roles are fundamental. Maybe you can rotate those roles into the team or bring someone external for important meetings. I mean, you decide what you do, but please do it. Project management. Again, those of you who are coming from the software industry, you will have your own tool. The tool that we use with our clients, and I personally use also myself, is Kanbanize. And actually, by the way, if someone wants a 3-month full license for Kanbanize, just ping me later or send me an email. I can provide you with a code for 3 months. And virtual working agreements and psychological safety are those of the 7 conditions that I was saying before that are fundamental. We could talk about many of them, but these two get special attention when virtual, because as we expect, I assume that if you are working in a team, you have your own working agreements already, hopefully. Otherwise, if you don't, you should. But please, when going remote for distributed teams, you should have your specific set of working agreements for remote. And now I will give you some examples. And then psychological safety. We will see also a slide about that. And continuous improvement. Continuous improvement is if you are a self-organized team, do whatever is required to, after every meeting, especially at the beginning, if you are starting with remote, dedicate 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the end to review that meeting and decide what can you change for the next meeting to improve. Also, maybe once in a week or once every 2 weeks, do a whole review of how are you working as a team in distributed environment and define improvements, because this is nothing automatic. It's a process. Distribution is going remote is a process of continuous learning or continuous improvement, right? And virtual working agreements. Yeah, definitely. This is cut at the bottom. I don't know why. This is an example. As I was saying, this is the basic stuff. You can add some, remove some, but please at least consider the 10 of them and make sure that you discuss them with your teams. First of all, what information do we need to share? Where is it stored? Do we have a local or a shared file network that we need to access through a VPN, or we can use Google Drive? What is the mechanism? What tools are we going to use to communicate? Slack, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, whatever. What are the tools? And what are the protocols also, okay? What are the expected response times? So if I ping someone, I'm expecting that he's going to be replying immediately tomorrow. When is the time? How do we know what each other is doing? Here, I recommend Kanbanize. Maybe you have your own tool, whatever tool, but at least you need to use a tool to know what everybody else is doing, because maybe, it's not always like that, but maybe in a collocated environment, that's obvious, but in distributed, it is not. Also, do we need core hours? Especially if you are distributed across time zones, this is something that you need to discuss, because you want, as a team, at least to make sure that you have, 4, 5, 6 hours a day where everybody is working at the same time. Otherwise, you have challenges. It doesn't have to be an impediment, but if you can agree on that, please agree on that. Also, what are the meeting protocols that we want to use? Are we going to have a secretary? Are we going to have a facilitator? Also, a recommendation here, please do not book 1-hour meetings. Forget that in distributed environment. Actually, I don't recommend that even in a collocation environment. And please do 45 to 50 minutes at most meetings, because people need time to take summary of the last meeting, go to the next meeting, maybe go for a walk, just relax, take a coffee, whatever. So don't schedule 1-hour meeting after 1-hour meeting, because that's crazy, especially when working from home. And usual stuff, probably those are more normal working agreements, but how are we going to give each other feedback? How will we show appreciation? How do we deal with conflict? Okay, those are important questions to discuss as a team. And last but not least, again, where is the coffee machine? Remember what I was telling you before. Please organize a virtual coffee room or a virtual canteen where you can meet with your colleagues for chit chat. Okay. What's next? Psychological safety. I don't want to bring too much theory here. This is one of, and actually you don't see the bottom where is a reference of a great study. that Google did some years ago, where they explain their learnings about psychological safety and working agreements. But anyways, psychological safety is the individual, but also a shared belief held by team members of a team that they are safe for interpersonal risk-taking. And we need to be very proactive as leaders or as coaches or even as self-organized team members to promote this. Seeking feedback, discussing errors, calling out wrong behavior from your colleagues, asking for help, offering help, providing feedback, asking for feedback. All these type of things need to be normal, and is one of the key ingredients of high performance. So please make sure that you proactively insist in these behaviors, okay? Provide the tools for having that, the working agreements. You have a leader or a coach that is helping you move in the direction. This is fundamental, especially for distributed teams. And last part of the webinar, we are almost done, is, I am by no means an expert in transitioning your company from co-located to remote, but I have collected some, let's say, some good tips along the way from companies who have done it, or by observing the role of leadership in the distributed companies I've been collaborating with, or myself as the manager or coach of distributed teams. So these are my key tips, basic tips. We cannot be here 2 hours about this. So as I was saying at the beginning, this is something important. Some people get mad about me when I tweeted about this a few weeks ago, but I really insist in this. If you are a great leader before going remote, you're going to be a great leader afterwards, because essentially it's about leadership. It's not about distribution. Okay, so if you know how what a great leader does, you will do that great when going remote. And if you weren't, chances are you will not. Okay, because it's about leadership. It's not about distribution. And now we will see what are those basic stuff. So, like everything probably in life, we need to have a clear answer to those 3 questions before transitioning to remote. I understand, yes, that the situation brought many of us to just working remote from 1 week to the next. Fair enough. But if you are going, hopefully this is gonna go over in a few months, and then we will be kind of transitioning to remote again, or going back to co-location and then transitioning to remote. But at least, and even if you went remote, make sure that you have the right answer to these questions. And first of all, the why. Probably it's obvious, but nowadays, but I can assure you that 2 months ago it was not obvious. So it can be environmental responsibility, preparing for disasters or pandemics, hiring the best talent, reducing costs, work-life balance, allowing employees to work from home when needed. There are many reasons that you can do this. Distribution a few weeks ago, as I was saying, was the exception, not the norm. And many people didn't believe in it. And also, I think there is a before and after this pandemic. Many companies will go back to co-location because it's in their mindset, in their culture, okay? They don't get it. So probably it's time for you to look somewhere else to work if that's your case, because these companies will suffer a lot in the upcoming years, right? It's about mentality. It's not only about distribution. Also, many employees and new generations and people working in companies are requesting it more and more. They want to be able to have flexibility to manage their professional life with their personal life. And this is something that, in year 2020, we should start doing. And that's the why, right? It can be many of those, but I think for the what, we should be very clear. And I'll give you what is my what. My what is that if you go remote, if you go distributed, the goal or the what is to be as productive as you were before, or even more. Okay, that's how do you know that going remote work is because you are as productive or efficient, as effective as you were before. Then on top of that, in addition to that goal, you can add some metrics like employee engagement improvement, talent attraction improvement, or increasing company benefits. Fair enough. But the goal is that you were the same or before that you, or better than you were before. And the how. The how is the tools and techniques and practices that I mentioned before, but there is also mindset. Mindset is key here. Like, as you will see now, like in any change management process, in any transition, in any cultural change, mindset is key. And this is going remote is more than anything else a change in mindset. It's how can I say it? So going remote is a huge change in mindset that disrupts your established culture in most of the cases. So, and also leadership styles. So some leadership styles may not work in a distributed environment. So, and what can we do about this? This slide is quite a short one. I cannot explain everything in few minutes. But if I have to take 3 things that are fundamental for leading this change to a distributed environment, those 3 things, as you can, those of you who know something about change management, are the basics of change management. One is co-creation. Then the process must be iterative and incremental, and it's a process of continuous learning. What do I mean by it? It starts by having the change process being designed collaboratively, including your team. So don't design it top, bottom, and push it. That doesn't work. So actually, the people doing the work are the ones who know better the tools and the stuff. So involve them in the process. Actually, they should be able to design most of it, right? So don't push it from the top. If you have already done that, okay, but please schedule a bi-weekly sessions with your teams to see how they are doing, what changes can you implement, and how can you help them as a leader or as a coach, okay? In the end, this is change management process, and all the advice for change management works here. The principle of co-creation is essential in any successful change management process. And also, start small. I mean, if you could, now we couldn't, because the situation was the situation that we had. And actually, one of my clients actually sent 70,000 people in 1 week. They sent 70,000 people working from home. That's a nightmare. Imagine the guys from networking, infrastructure, security. That's a huge nightmare. So that was the situation, right? But if you could do it properly, you would do that incrementally. And if you have not done incrementally, at least try to introduce these learning cycles, right? Maybe some of you, as I was saying, will go back to, let's say, normal life, and we'll start to really thinking about going fully distributed. How do we do that? Well, you don't boil the ocean. You start with 1 or 2 teams. First, simulate it in the office. Right? It's simple. No impact on productivity. You do the same that you were doing in the office, but everybody from their computer, let's say, right? Then go 1 day a week. 1 day a week, you go and you get lots of learnings. Okay, then introduce those learnings into the next iteration. The next iteration is go for 1 full week. Once you have done that, you can expand to your whole business unit or to more teams and simulate this process again from the office, 1 day per week, and then go away 1 week. This is a continuous evolution, right? And I can assure you that you will learn a lot in the process, because most probably, if you do it in a big bang approach, like most of us had to do because of the situation, you will find poor equipment, poor tools, poor internet connections, different time zones, lack of working agreements, people not being able to express themselves. Thousands of things. Yours will be different from others, but you will find those. So please make sure that you try to do it involving everybody and in a continuous learning process. And last 3 tips, probably they are obvious, but why believe me when I say that they are not. So as you have already assumed, you need a budget for that. What I'm saying here, okay, we're assuming that people have this headset. These headsets are 250 euros. This chair is more than 400 euros. A whiteboard, Miro licenses, Kanban licenses, Zoom licenses, If you go with VPN, you need to set up Cisco security and stuff for 70,000 people. That's going to be a huge amount of money. But put in a scale the benefits of going distributed versus the cost. And if you allocate 700 per person to buy a proper computer, to buy headsets, to buy a chair, and you make that happen, I can assure that everything's going to be really, really cool for your company, right? And if you don't, you will suffer from productivity, okay? So please think about that. And you need a budget, and it's easier kind of to make those calculations nowadays. Also, you will face roadblocks, usually, or impediments, usually in the form of people's mentality. So I have plenty of examples here. I will just drop a few so you understand. There are still companies who, for whatever reasons, they think that they need to have huge security and stuff, and they don't allow their people to use Dropbox or Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive to share documents. No? And whenever you interact with them as a partner, it's a huge issue to share files and stuff. I mean, guys, most of you are not working for the FBI or the CIA, so relax about security. I understand that some people, those working on strategic stuff, may need to take into account security, but most of other employees in the company don't. So relax about that and really allow your people to be efficient and effective while working, and don't put impediments in their work. Another example, I've really received emails from chief digital officers saying that the team couldn't use any tool on the cloud or Slack. So how stupid is that? I mean, you are managing a digital transformation and you don't allow your people to use Slack or tools on the cloud. I mean, again, for security reasons, guys, we are not working for CIA or the FBI, so relax. I mean, but those are people that may be in your way to actually allowing your teams to be high performers. So sometimes it's legal, sometimes it's compliance, sometimes it's security, sometimes it's an executive who, for whatever reasons, doesn't have anything else to do. So please take that into account. And my favorite one is, I would say, is remote onboarding. So what I put this here because in my experience as a coach and consultant and also as an employee, probably that's one of the things that sucks the most of many companies, the onboarding process. I mean, we see these pictures in internet of the cool stuff that people receive, but it's not about the gadgets that you get when you get onboarding. Onboarding is a process of knowing people, knowing the company, knowing your work, knowing your job. It's not just the tools. So, and most companies suck at onboarding. But now, on top of sucking at onboarding, you need to add distribution. So start thinking about how do you perform remote onboarding, okay? Because it's going to be even much more complicated than it was before. So how are you going to accompany new hires throughout the process? How are you going to introduce them to the team and to other people in the organization? How are you going to help them learn the values and the culture of the company? How are you going to help them learn what the company does? How are you going to send them all the equipment to the place? The chair, the laptop, the headset, all this stuff. How are you going to do that? So I think you should start thinking about it. And we're almost done. This is, we have 5 minutes, not much. So thank you very much. Just a quick note. As I was saying, we have a webinar next week. You will receive if you are subscribed to this one, you will receive the link to the webinar next week, and you will also see ours in the our apps in the social networks. And at the end of the month, we're starting 2 live online Lean product management training for those who are interested in becoming great product managers. We are doing this online for a while, so you have the links here, and you can also ask me if you have any more questions about that. And that's it. Sorry, I went a little bit past the time, but still we have some minutes still. Jerome, I think you on mute maybe. Cannot hear you. You're on mute, Jerome. Well, I can read the questions myself, and there are some here. I cannot hear you, Jerome. I will go through the questions myself. So there's one. I'm going to start from the end. There's a question here. I don't really understand the question. What about agile projects remotely? Well, I don't know. I don't understand so what is the point here? That's what I was been talking about. So you have all the tools that you need to actually do a project remotely. I don't understand the question, and probably there's some specific question in there. Mark is asking, co-creation continue with a bi-weekly meeting. Is this included in a retrospective, or you mean a different session? Oh, good one. Yeah, actually, we don't want to clock your agenda with stuff, but maybe if you're just transitioning to remote, probably you could. I'm just guessing. So it depends, right? It's not that I'm guessing. It depends on your setup, but you could do two things. You dedicate one specific time of the retrospective to talk about these topics because they will come up naturally, or you could just dedicate one hour specifically for that. So the retrospective about distributed work. It's 1 hour a week. I think it's always thinking on the long term. That's gonna help you. Okay. But please do it. Something that really works, I also mentioned, is that if you don't want to do that, at least for the first month or first 2 months, book time at the end of every meeting. Well, not every meeting, but the most important ones, to do a quick and short retrospective about that meeting. So the next meeting you do, imagine sprint planning or release planning or backlog refinement, whatever meetings you do in your agile world, dedicate some time at the end, maybe reduce the scope of the meeting or the time box for the meeting, but please do that retrospective at the end because that will help you a lot. Okay. Are you going to share the slides? Yes, I'm going to share the slides somewhere. We're going to share the video also, and you will also get an email with the replay link, so you can again see everything that that we were saying here. Someone says Trello rules. Yeah, Trello rules, but Kanban is much better. Teams is better than Slack. I don't know. I've used Microsoft Teams, but I've mostly used Slack. What else? I think that's all questions. So I think any tip? There's another one. Good question. Well, there are more questions now. So Chesk asks, from Basecamp, they always refer to the need of asynchronous communication. How do you match this with your recommendation of not using email and focus on Slack? Well, actually, Slack for me is an asynchronous communication. You can use Slack for direct communication, but sometimes it's asynchronous. So how you have these channels where you can write something and maybe someone answers the question a few minutes later or tomorrow. I don't like email. I try not to use only email for broadcasting or for sending one-way communications. And then, if you're working in Kanban or you're working in Jira, you have the comments on the tickets, which is also a form of communication. That for me works great. So, any tip to be clear about availability of the team? Well, you should you should have your own agreements. Decide where you put that. You can share a calendar. Typical stuff that I've done is we have a shared calendar if you use Google, in Google or Outlook, whatever is the tool that you use. And And then everybody puts their holidays, their vacations, or their schedule. If it's about schedule, I think that should be an agreement. But if it's about holidays or going, not working, whatever, I prefer the calendar. How can you make employees leave the culture of the company and make them feel close to other colleagues? Do you have any other suggestions apart from virtual coffee room? Well, yes. I mean, this is part of the onboarding process. I mean, there are, whole bunch of tools that you can or practices that you can use. But what I would really recommend here that we have done sometimes is you can schedule a design thinking session with your team. I don't know if you, if you belong to HR or if you are managers, you get a good cross-functional, group of people, and you do a design thinking session to see where the challenge is remote onboarding, okay? And then you put all your brains together working into how we can reproduce or even improve the traditional onboarding process with going remote. There you can set up one-on-one meetings. You can do virtual all-hands meetings. I mean, there's many different ways in which you can do that. But for me, the best recommendation I could give you here is that you design your own process. Okay, that's my recommendation. What do you like about Kanban that you don't have on other platforms? Well, good question. What I like about Kanban is the people. I know the founder, Dimitar, and I know many people working there. And one thing that I like about them is that they are very lean and very agile. And so they live their values and they put their values into the product. And they are always listening to customers, introducing changes and improvements. And for Kanban, which is something that we are specialist on, it's probably the best tool in the market. I could maybe, if we can have a more detailed conversation of this, but not for everything. Maybe for other tasks you can use Trello or even version 1, whatever. But for Kanban, if you really want to adopt Kanban, I really love Kanban for many reasons, but especially for the company. That question that I wasn't understanding before. Imagine a project team working with Scrum methodology. Does it work working at home? I mean, you cannot do Scrum meetings, do you? Yes, obviously you can. Yes, you can do. You can do all type of meetings at home, but you need the proper tools. You need a whiteboard. You need access to your Kanban or Jira or whatever tool you're using. But very important, you need video, you need headset, you need a virtual whiteboard, you need everybody participating, you need a facilitator. Yes, you can, I mean, everything you do in collocated Scrum, you can do virtually. Yeah, I think that the answer from Cesc is not for me, but for Jordi. So you guys can talk about that more deeply. Going remote and distributed means a significant mindset change. Yes. What to do with people who are not fit for remote? In your experience, do all accept remote or some fall out and leaders should assume some attrition? Yes. Like with any change process, there is some attrition. I mean, whenever you change something deeply ingrained in your company, in your culture, in your mindset, there are some people who don't get it, and you need to be fair about that. You need to all the best to help them find somewhere else, absolutely. But you need to be also very, very straight with that, because otherwise they can be hindering your process. And that's not only for employees, that's also for executives and managers. So be careful, because sometimes the roadblock is the executive layer, not the employees. Right? And that was the last question. We are 5 minutes over time. Jerome, I cannot hear you. I don't know what's going on. I will say goodbye. Thank you really very much for being here. I know it's difficult times for everybody. I hope that the tips and hints I gave you are useful. And remember, you're going to receive an email with a replay link, and we'll also be sending the link to YouTube and Vimeo with the recording and the slides somewhere. I don't know, in SlideShare or somewhere else. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here. Bye-bye.